Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about narcissism with Dr. Kathomi So if you're new to my channel is all about adulting together, helping each other navigate the adult streets. So I've started a segment called Therapy Thursdays in conjunction with Dr. Kathomi. Now, Dr. Kathomi is located in Australia, therefore we have to have these conversations on Zoom. So apologies for the pixelated video. I have tried to connect to record a Zoom meeting on my phone. I can't do it. I can't figure it out. I've been on online chat rooms trying to figure it out. I still can't figure it out. So for now, I'll record on my laptop. Please bear with me. Please listen to the message and pay less attention to the video. All right, here is Dr. Kathomi. Hello.
Hi, girl.
How are you?
I'm good. How have you been?
When we did our first session, I put out a call to people and said, we're going to be doing the segment called Therapy Thursdays. Do you have any topics that you're wanting for us to discuss or topics that I can put to you? And a lot of people said that they want for us to talk about narcissism. A lot of the questions are particularly around a narcissistic partner, a narcissistic boyfriend, narcissistic girlfriend, husband, wife, that sort of situation. So what is a narcissist? Like, if we just jump into it, who is a narcissist? And I mean, how do I know I'm around a narcissist?
So first of all, I want to say that I think we tend to overuse this word a little bit, so like every time there's difficulties in a relationship, you hear people saying, he's a toxic narcissist, like he's a narcissist. And I agree, there's a narcissist pandemic, but I think sometimes it's good to not just diagnose people with things that are not there. Sometimes it might be that there are other things which are not necessarily that great either. They might not be great partners, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're narcissistic. So narcissism is actually a personality disorder. So it's a full-on mental
disorder.
So it's not just someone is behaving badly. It's a personality disorder.
Okay.
And it is a mental condition where people have an excessive sense of grandiosity and an inflated sense of ego and self-importance. So they think of themselves as very special. Other people are not as special as they are. They deeply crave external validation and the approval of others. And that they will have a very distorted sense of what success looks like for them and what that means about how other people see them and how they see other people. And they are kind of obsessed with status, power, and societal importance, whichever way. So there are many things that we can talk about.
What about like Idi Amin?
Yeah, so many dictators are narcissists. So many CEOs are narcissists. There's a study that was done that says a lot of successful business people, a lot of business leaders are actually weighing quite strongly on the narcissist scale. So I don't know whether there's that sense of being so self-absorbed that you can't quite sit with the suffering of others that actually makes them quite effective in business, because you can kind of make decisions without really not being tangled up in people's emotions about it or something like that. So anyway, that's a whole discussion. Don't know much about it.
Yeah. Okay. So like, how do I, if I've never, because I think you're right, we use the word very loosely, right? oh, so and so is a narcissist, oh, my ex is a narcissist, or this and that, right? But how can I actually tell that I'm dating, let's talk about in the dating context, I'm dating a narcissist? How will that show up in a relationship?
So there are some agreed upon symptoms that vary from person to person. The other thing that I actually really wanted to mention before I talk about the symptoms is that we are on a scale of the narcissism linear scale,
Everybody?
So it's about, because it is about the self and how grandiose it is. And because of how we evolved biologically, we tend to look out for ourselves a lot. So when it scales too much on the other side, that's when it becomes a personality disorder, because then it doesn't really quite consider the collective, it considers the personal a lot. So I think all of us have tendencies of narcissism at one point or another, call it sometimes, wanting things for ourselves and not for others, it doesn't quite become a disorder if it's not really sliding on that scale. All those things really are on a linear scale. So if you are in a relationship, there's some agreed upon, symptoms that you should just be quite aware of. And I'll be very interested in people's experiences about this. Narcissists tend to love bomb people. And then as soon as people agree to...
What do you mean love bomb?
Love bomb is, overwhelming you with grand gestures of love. And, I love you. I can't believe someone like you would ever agree to be with someone like me. Oh, you're the prettiest girl. Oh, you just... You don't become a narcissist just by having one characteristic, okay? Otherwise, all of us...
This is what they were doing in La Mujer de mi vida in Cuando se es mía. And we were
La Mujer de mi vida with that Antonio and Barbarita, they taught us all to love bomb, or otherwise just not accept love if you are not being photographed.
I thought that was romantic. I thought that's being romantic.
Well, it could be. So there's a flip side to it. I'm not saying your partner love bombing you is bad. I'm saying it is the intention and how it is displayed or how they behave afterwards that matters. So listen to this. I can't believe someone like you could be with someone like me. You're the prettiest girl I've ever met in my life. Oh my God, I'm already in love. It's second day of the date, or it's just love bombing you before you know it. You've only gone to 3 dates with them. They send a whole, lorry of flowers into your office, all these things. And you're like, I literally do not know this person. I've just met them. We've just gone on a date or 2 times, and it's feeling like it's a little bit too much, like you're being thrown off your center, not really organic. Things are not developing organically. They're just throwing everything they can onto you and hoping that you find one of those appealing and hold on to it. But remember, partners showing you love is very healthy. But love bombing, that should be a very telltale sign.
Okay.
Because it already shows you someone who is very, very insecure with themselves, and they kind of need to buy it from you. They need to kind of inflate you, get you off your center. It's what we call being swept off your feet. You're just like, it's not real. It kind of throws you off your natural center. And then once you actually agree to either partner with them or things like, they actually start behaving funny. They're just like, they almost abandon you, because at that point they've acquired the power in the relationship. They now feel they've not been rejected, so they feel like they have an upper hand in the relationship, so they start to abandon, and you start to wonder, this is the person who was sending lorries to me for Valentine's.
Yeah.
And next Valentine, he's just telling me, I don't believe in Valentine's. It's a Western colonial thing. Yeah. You're like, dude, you just sent me, you know, a Naivas lorry last year. And now it makes you start to think, what did I do between then and now to actually? So it's about watching the consistency and the patterns around this person. So it can feel very confusing around the starting of a relationship. Yeah. I actually would never date anybody who loved me. I would never, you know, because it reflects.
I was going to say there's some people who are very romantic consistently, right? There's some people who are very, you know, maybe your love language is gifts, and this person realizes that, and therefore they will always shower you with gifts and physical.
That's very different.
Yeah,
so people need to go and learn the difference between gift as a love language and someone who is consistently a romantic person, and love bombing. They're two different things. Okay. And love bombing doesn't necessarily have to do with gifts. It could be like someone who is texting you 100 times a day saying, I love you. Oh my God, I love you. I've never met anybody like you. Yeah. It's like, I just left the house 5 minutes ago. Just leave me alone.
Someone who's like mean in character, can they be nice in
character? Sometimes not. Actually, narcissists are very charming. Very charming. This is how it's like being lured into a trap. Nobody willingly goes and dates a narcissist because they have very unpleasant personalities. So it's like they've learned that when people see them, they reject them. So they learn how to perform this love bombing, all these words they need to say, all these things. In fact, I need to say this really clearly. They connect to people by sharing vulnerability. It's like performed empathy and performed vulnerability. They'll be like, you know, my dad wasn't just really there for me. My mom was never really there for me. I'm just so happy to meet a woman who values family. You know, they start to show these vulnerable sides of themselves. And you're walking right into a trap. You're thinking, what a beautiful man who cries.
You're thinking, just the man I've been waiting for.
But that is just an act.
Yeah.
Because they use traumas to bond with other people. And the way that I said we are all on a scale, they are narcissists who are massive bottomless pits. That is, there's nothing that you ever do that will be enough for this person. And they try to attract people on the other side of the scale who try to gain approval by giving. They're like giving. And the ones on the other side, they're taking. They take. So if you're on the other side of the spectrum where you're just, your approval, your sense of self is about by fixing others, by changing others, by giving all you've got, by showing that you're selfless and all this Mother Teresa stuff, then you're the person who's going to be lured by, oh, I never had this and you and this. And they lure people by use of vulnerability and trauma. So they connect, you know, there's a lot of trauma bonding. And then you're thinking, oh, this is the most sensitive person I've ever met in my life. But this is a phase. People need to recognize a lot of this is a phase.
Yeah.
What you need to really be looking for are symptoms of an inflated sense of self. This is a person who will take you out for dinner and the entire dinner conversation is about them, or the business deals that they did, what we did. You know, never a question about, hey D, tell me how your day was. And you're like, yeah, we went to this place, and then immediately they take on your answer. They go, oh, I remember that, like me that one other time. So conversations can never really be two-dimensional. They have to one-up you. They have to take your stories and make them about themselves. They have no capacity, and I have to use this word carefully, they have no capacity to actually entertain the stories of other people in their lives. The other thing is they have a very diminished sense of empathy. You know, these are the people who be like, it's been 2 months since your dad died. Can you stop crying? You know, can we just have a nice night? Can we try and have sex? Can we just try and do this thing I've been wanting to do? What do you mean you're not going to come to me and throw me a birthday present even though your family died last? You know, like, it's the empathy, because now they are no longer moving from the performative phase. The real self is coming out, and this will be tested when actually you need them, because they have no capacity to show up for other people. So when you actually need them, they have no capacity to show up for others because they only have capacity for themselves. The other thing that I always think is a telltale sign is people who are preoccupied with status, with power, with all these accomplishments as a way to prove their worth. Mm-hmm. Oh, I met with so and so. By the way, wacha hata nikuonyeshe niko na namba yake. Yeah. You know,
those ones who are like,
these are people.
The keyboard is dropped on the table so you can see it's a Benz.
That's right. These are the people who want to show you that they have connections, that they have power, that they have accomplishments. And we are not saying that these things are bad, but it's that they use things to actually get you to be in awe of them. It's not enough that they have these things in there. They want you to be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God. They're so nice. Oh, okay. So,
and also the other intention is to make you feel small. It's like, what do you mean you've never met the president? Because we have breakfast every Friday. Yeah, at my home. Yeah. What do you mean? In fact, I was talking to, they will name another person, they will name another person. So the naming of this big thing sometimes is an attempt to make the other person feel small. Yeah. As they inflate themselves, because on the inside, narcissists are actually this small. So they have to look this big on the outside.
So it's like they've placed themselves on a pedestal almost.
The other thing that I like to get people to think about is that how is this person actually showing up for you when you need them? Are they never showing up for you? Mm-hmm. How does this person behave when it's a big day for you? Does he always kick up a stink on your birthdays, on your anniversaries, on a day that you're graduating college, on a day that you got your promotion at work, on a day that you're launching your big product?
Would a narcissist be attracted to another narcissist? Or would they actually target someone who's more, I guess, soft-hearted and more, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but like, you know, too
vulnerable.
You're just, you know, is that the type of person they target?
I don't think, of course, it's easier to target people who are vulnerable, people who cannot see through the veneer, people who are either compromised in that they will buy the story, buy the narrative, buy the excuses. The other thing that narcissists are very good at is that they are master manipulators, they are master liars. They have an excuse for literally everything. So why did you come to my birthday 4 hours late when we were just about to leave the restaurant? Babe, let me tell you, I was rushing here as quick as I could. Let me tell you, I saw this dead grandma on the highway. I had to stop. Let me tell you, they have a story for everything. And every story is so dramatic. Both men and women do this. This is not just a domain for men, because when we think about these controlling behaviors, sometimes we trend to think, oh, men, but actually it's not true.
Yeah, it's definitely both ways. It goes both ways.
And when you're talking about it outside of the romantic context, a narcissistic parent is the parent who was just never happy with bottomless pits. This is what I call them. It didn't matter what you did. Your own parent will try to outbid you. You got a first class. But you know, this education of nowadays, it's not like ours from when we did it in the 60s. Ours was tough, you know? We used to study from 6 to 6, you know, and This is your own kid who's just graduated, brought in a first class or whatever it is, good grades. And instead of sitting with the idea that your child actually might be clever than you, it flares up a lot of.
Oh, okay.
And the other thing is that narcissists deeply crave connection and intimacy and love and don't want to be abandoned. And that is why they do all this manipulative stuff to get people to stay, to get people to do all this. Oh, if you leave me, I'll kill myself. All these things that people do. But at the same time, their behaviors are so intolerable that people end up leaving them anyway. So because of their behavior, they reproduce a lot of abandonment issues that trigger their own narcissism even more. If I become more powerful, if I become this. So they try to up themselves because they think the reason that they've been left is not because they were toxic, it's because they were not big enough and grandiose enough.
Oh my God.
So the way we would hurt people and go, you know what? I was a low-key toxic partner in that relationship. I'm just gonna go and work on myself. That doesn't exist for a lot of narcissists. They'll be like, they will do all these horrible things to their partner, and then when their partners finally leave, they'll be like, will be the sob story. They'll be the victim.
So I was gonna say, so what if, people who are in situations where they can't leave easily? So people who've been either married for so long, or you're in a workplace and you desperately need that job and you're working with a narcissist or narcissists, what can you do? Like, what are the practical steps you can take?
You can't actually change a narcissist. A lot of people who are caught into the web of dating narcissists think that they will change them. They think that, if I just do this better, they'll change. And a lot of partners or people who work for narcissists, I want you to ask yourself this: do I feel emotionally drained by how hard I have to work to make this person happy? So once you realize you're working within a narcissistic relationship, save your energy and start working out your exit plan. It might not be today, tomorrow, or next month. Just remember, narcissism is one of the hardest, in fact, psychologists say it's one of the most difficult disorders to change, because you can't get someone to go in and reflect. And reflection is what causes people to change.
Thinking back to my teenage self, and I'm hoping that this message reaches teenagers and 20-something-year-olds. There's this psychologist who says before you're 25, you're using an interim brain. It's so true, because you're not thinking clearly. The first guy who comes along becomes your first love and your first everything. And you don't even know you don't even know who you are. And so I really hope that young people who are in relationships, first of all, don't be like me and be in relationships when you're 18, 19. You have no business. Please just grow yourself and your talents. But if you are in a relationship when you're a teenager and you're in your 20s, I hope that you can take away from this message what we didn't have access to when we were that age.
There's so many studies that are coming up nowadays that are showing, because of our exposure to social media, we are actually growing an entire generation full of narcissists, because it's in the social media space where we go to compete for all these things that I've talked about. Oh, look at me, and how I got to hang out with Beyonce. By the way, if Beyonce wants to hang out,
I'm down as well.
So a lot of children, teenagers, are growing up in this age where they know nothing but competition around those narcissistic with strangers. Yeah. The other thing that I want to talk about in terms of practical, things that you can do is just actually look out for your own safety. One of the more dangerous ones are the narcissists who can't be disagreed with, who can't be challenged, who, when they lose control, it actually turns into rage. It turns into anger. It turns into you ever seen someone try to call their partner for like 5 times and then they decide they don't love me anymore, they don't want me anymore, and they chase them, they follow them, it's like this rage manic idea of it's about me. And I don't care whether you are in a meeting with your CEO. When I call you,
you pick up.
You attend to me. A deep sense of entitlement towards other people's time, resources, affection, and other people's bodies, other people's, just entire being. But they're not willing to actually give even a little bit of that. But if you set boundaries, narcissists flare up because they feel entitled to, you should pick up your call when I call you.
Like Yang says, when you see crazy coming, cross the street.
If you're a giver and constantly attracting narcissists in your life, you first have to check, what's my blueprint? What's my relationship blueprint? Who raised me that narcissism is so familiar to me that I almost call on to it? That is very, very difficult sometimes, because that is the love that you're familiar with. That is the love you saw from your mother, your father. So, see other people, you're like, I know that. Immediately there's something in the brain that goes, I can recognize that. It doesn't, and sometimes it feels like it's familiar. And then you're like, oh, there's the spark. Girl, you're not feeling the spark. You're attracting your trauma. I think we do have to be very careful about the people we choose as our partners, because they do mirror aspects of us that actually need a bit of healing.
Wow. Tony Robbins says you always go home, to your mental home, to your emotional home. You always go home. So it makes sense that if you're raised in this environment, that's what you'll attract, because it's home.
I need you all to go and take a pen and a paper and write who your exes are, my friends.
Write down the characteristics. That's actually a really good,
and see what is actually familiar in all of them.
Now, what's the common theme?
What was the common theme? The other way to figure out is why did the relationship end? Is it because you didn't feel heard? Is it because you felt constantly disrespected? Is it because you were constantly cheated on? Is it because you were lied to? Is it because you were abandoned constantly? Write what the characteristics of these people were and actually what ended the relationships. And that will give you, of course, you need to work through this with your own therapist, but you will start to get a glimpse of what your patterns are and what you attract. The other thing is if you're raised by a narcissist, is to figure out the behaviors that you had to adopt as a kid to cope with a narcissist parent. So for me, I just became very compliant, and to avoid being beaten and to avoid being criticized. So I was just like, so every time something was done, I would just say yes or whatever, and not to defy. So those are the same things that you will start to do in your relationship. So you will start to mirror the same behavior in your adult relationships.
Thank you so much.
Subscribe.